Behind me, I'm standing behind Times Towers and Pension Towers just behind me. And buildings are coming up in Kenya every single daily basis. And of course, with me here, I'm standing just beside the road. And I'm looking at different car models from Toyota to Pajero to Isuzu to BMW to Mercedes to Peugeot and all those other. I can definitely see cars from the east and cars from the west, but none from Kenya. What really happened to Mobius? Does it mean that Mobius never had the capacity to build a car that Kenya could believe on from ferrying their family from point A to point B? Or does it even mean that the Kenyan market didn't even want to accept the fact that Kenya had the capacity to build a car? Well, in today's episode, we are going to find out together. Most Kenyans believe that definitely for a car to be as good as looking and as it to capture the most attention, definitely it has to be imported all the way from abroad, either from the east or the west. And of course, now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Kenya had its own car. Back in 2010, a car called Mobius brand was actually launched. But really, what happened? What made it almost die? And what's happening to almost it being revived in 2025? So today we want to find out what really happened to the company called Mobius, and to the fact that is it going to come up and beat up the market to the cars that are in the same class like the Toyota RAV4, the Nissan X-Trail, or even the Toyota Vanguard. Let's find it together. Well, today I take you back all the way to 2010. That is the year that the car company that was actually built in Kenya, wanasemanga locally built, not locally assembled, locally built for Kenya roads. Of course, Mobius, 2010, someone called Joel Jackson was the founder of Mobius Kenya. And of course, the guy's idea was to build something rugged, something that looks more of an SUV to tackle the Kenyan roads. And of course, the car was not to be too expensive. And of course, when it came to the fuel efficiency, was also to be intact. And yes,
this is what motivated me to start Mobius, to build a vehicle in Africa for Africa.
Did he really achieve what he wanted? Well, we want to find it together. So he actually did one of the two prototypes before it actually got to the third one and failed. We got Mobius 1, that was the first prototype of the car. And then we got Mobius 2, that was the second prototype of the car. And then immediately just before the company almost crashed and collapsed, he actually did prototype 3 of the Mobius 3. So what's next after that? And why is it really important for Kenya to have its own car production company? First of all, economic empowerment to our own country. The fact that we create so many jobs and monetize the skills that our young people have in terms of when it comes to engineering. Second of all, environmental friendly. We can make something that's made for our own roads that tackles the most toughest areas, because when they're making the car, they actually know tuko na Wajir, tuko na Busia, tuko na Turkana, tuko na all those kind of places. So when they make it, they'll know they're definitely making for the roads that are actually here in Kenya. And to add on top, I feel like the infrastructure will also be boosted at a higher rate, because I mean, the spare parts for those cars will actually still be produced in Kenya. The people who service the car, still in Kenya. Made for Kenya. Yeah. But what really killed Mobius before its current attempt for resurrection? Let's find this together. Point number 1, financial constraints, low capital and higher overheads. To the fact that walikuja wakaanza kutengeneza, that's the mid crossover SUV, to the fact that they would have started with the smaller car, so they went to a bigger car. And of course, the expectations, because that car wanted to compete with the Fortuner, Prado, RAV4, Vanguard, X-Trail, or even all the mid-over crossover SUV like Akina, Mazda CX-5. So basically, low capital and higher overheads. The import duty of the components was very high, making the final product, now the actual car, very, very expensive. To the fact that when it's brought to the market, compared to another unit that on the same class on it, it gets to be a bit more expensive. So the taxation made the final product become more expensive compared to how much it would have costed. Point number 3, competition from newly imported or even locally used car companies that are in the same class with Mobius. And of course, Mobius attempted to be a bit more expensive to the ones that are actually imported in Kenya. You know, in Kenya, Mobius has to compete with Mazda CX-5, Nissan X-Trail, the Toyota Harrier, the Lexus RT300, and the likes of the Akina mid crossover SUVs. And of course, when compared, these other cars are actually imported in Kenya, have a higher resale value. The spare parts are actually readily available. And of course, with compared to Mobius is a bit more expensive, and of course the resale value is still also low. So the competition with internationally imported cars in Kenya was actually very stiff. The scale of production volume. You see, without too many orders from the car, people getting to want to buy that or to own the Mobius unit, when you produce one unit, the cost goes high. When you produce like the same unit and produce like 1,000 of them, of course the cost goes down. And for that, the final product, the price will be a bit lower. The last point is brand trust issues. After the threat of the liquidation of the company, so many of the customers, they actually lost the trust in buying that particular unit. So those are the threats that actually made the company that now it almost has an attempt to be resurrected almost died. So what needs to be in place for Mobius to succeed? So on this, we have policy support. On this, tax incentives. Okay, too many of the taxi, when they are getting to import the components that makes them produce the car. So the fact when the point of the cost of production it gets low, the final product cost of it being sold finally to the consumer should actually be also very low. Local supplier base, the fact they make the steel, the glasses, and all the other components locally, that support local. And of course, even when it comes to producing the parts of the cars again locally in Kenya, to actually be very easy, because they actually just produce it in Kenya and supplied amongst the people who are actually going to be using the car here in Kenya. Let's talk about trust and warranty. Of course, they need to have really good warranties for the cars to a period of around 1 to 2 years. That's approximately 12 months to around 24 months. And of course, they also need to have very strong service centers. The fact that when the car breaks down, for it to be fixed back to its normal functioning condition, it wouldn't take too much time or too much bureaucracy in there. Something else that will also make that company succeed is the fact that if they would make a very good market demand, they might achieve that through very well strategic advertising, telling people why do they definitely need to own that particular unit. So the fact that when they sell it locally, it now becomes to be an internationally used car. Imagine going to South Africa, going to America, going to Zimbabwe, going to Uganda, and finding a car that's actually produced here, not just locally assembled in Kenya, but made in Kenya. How would that feel? Nice, right? The last thing that will make that company now succeed in Kenya, affordable pricing for the car. Yes, affordable pricing. To the fact that that car, it should be with the cars that are in the same class like in a RAV4, CX5, and all those crossover mid SUVs should actually not have a very big price gap when it comes to purchasing that particular unit. Yes. So questions for you. Do you think the Mobius car, either the Mobius 1, 2, or 3, will be as durable as the L3 Prados in Kenya, the Land Cruisers, the Toyota RAV4, or even the Mazdas actually imported here in Kenya? Well, do let me know in the comment section down below. Or how do you think the Mobius company will compete with duty changes for the cars that are actually imported here in Kenya? Well, do let me know in the comment section down below. What about spare parts and maintenance costs? In the comment section down below, do let me know. And the last question is, when can I actually see Mobius cars being ready for sale, instead of me looking at a Toyota, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Peugeot, a Mercedes, all those car brands from the west and from the east? When can I actually see all Mobius cars actually passing? Locally made in Kenya, not just assembled, but locally made in Kenya for Kenyan roads. Well, also, do let me know in the comment section down below if you have a hint about that. So yes, guys, that has been the future of locally used cars in Kenya. I know we have produced so many things, but of course, cars are commodities actually been used. A few years ago, people thought that owning cars actually was the largest form of owning liabilities. But right now, a car is a necessity. The fact that you need to own a house, you still need to own a car because of moving from point A to point B. And of course, for the weekend with the boys. So definitely, what do you guys think about today's video? Do let us know in the comment section down below. This has been Terava, bringing to you the best car review content and telling you the facts of locally used cars, and to the fact that we have Mobius 1, 2, and 3. And of course, most definitely, if 4 is gonna come, if the company is going to resurrect the company the right way. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Don't consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you get to be updated anytime we get to upload a newly car video. And of course, for more information or letting us know what you thought about today's video, the comment is actually open just for you. Yeah.